Hey traveler, you've discovered a new dungeon called That Game Rules, a nostalgia-driven retro gaming podcast where we gather around that glowing tube TV, play some of our favorite old games, and rediscover our love for all things retro. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll be your Dungeon Master Scuba, and I lean towards everything chaotic. Time to blow in the cartridge this week. Just be careful, that thing's made of gold, because we're talking the original NES Legend of Zelda.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Time warping all the way back to 1986, talking board games, Dungeons and Dragons, Nintendo in the 80s, and of course that glorious Zelda cartoon. So grab that dungeon map if you were smart enough to hold on to that coveted piece of paper. Stock up those potions. Let's join Link on his first epic quest, or wherever we are in the Zelda timeline. But first, this old man in a cave has to drop some knowledge on you. Every episode here is a trip back in time. We're talking old movies, shows, and toys from our childhoods. Then we're going to get into this game, the box art, characters, levels, music, check out some comments and reviews, and a whole chest of other goodies. Finally, we'll give this game some awards, see where Zelda and Link end up in the rankings, blow on that whistle, and just fast travel on out of here. So listen to this old man when he tells you, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this podcast. Email the show at thatgamerules@gmail.com. Tell me what games you want to talk about. Find me on all the socials, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Patreon I got. It's all free over there. Just want to chat with you guys about games. So what have I been up to? Before we talk some memories, around here it is a heat wave currently. It's feeling like Death Mountain around here lately. Hopefully everybody's staying cool. It's hard to get the yard work done. It's hard to do anything outside. It's like an oven out there, but it's good for your beach days. Me and the fam, we've been doing a lot of Cedar Point, which I've kind of mentioned here and there, but I'm trying to get our money's worth out of the passes I bought from Christmas, and so far so good. I think I might be a coaster head. I think that's the term for weirdos like me and some of my family members now. I never liked roller coasters as a kid. I was a sissy. But man, I don't know if it's my kid. I think it's a mixture of my kid's excitement for it and my being an older, jaded, sometimes depressed, don't give an F, let's put me on a coaster and throw me into the sky. Sometimes I get into kind of those moods. You end up on a roller coaster doing that, you might have a good time. So now I'm riding all these coasters. I don't know if anybody is a Cedar Point fan. I hear it's one of the better parks in America. I know Six Flags owns it now, but between Top Thrill 2, that one's all right. You got Steel Vengeance, Millennium Force, Maverick, Gatekeeper, Siren's Curse. Those are all my top coasters. And I went from, okay, trying these coasters out to riding the coasters to now front row, arms up on everything. Like, I do not give Fs anymore. Just throw me on all the coasters. So I've been doing that. I also started watching Invincible on Prime. I know that's like 4 seasons out now, so I'm excited to have something to binge, I guess. I don't watch a lot of TV, but it's nice to have something in the downtime. And that is, I've always heard it's very similar to The Boys. It's a cartoon, and it's got voice. You got J.K. Simmons on there voicing Omni-Man. You got Steve Yeun. I don't know if that's how you say his name. I think he's the guy from The Walking Dead, I think. And then you got Sandra Oh, who I only recognize because my wife is a huge Grey's Anatomy fan. So I saw that name and I thought she's not watching it with me though. She's watching her own Supernatural, probably on repeat over and over again. But I made it through the first season. No spoilers. It's great. And if you're on the fence about Invincible, just like The Boys, just make it through episode 1. Like all the way to the end of episode 1, and that usually gets you hooked, at least for that first season. And then finally, game-wise, besides playing Zelda, I was playing the new Netflix horror game. I know Netflix has games. It's weird, right? I always forget, but they're there. Sometimes, like I was playing Shredder's Revenge on Netflix, which sucks with touch screens on my phone, but it was there. If I had a controller for my phone, I could have used it. But anyway, that Netflix horror game wants to use your phone, but like not as a controller. Kind of. You use it as a pointer, like a Wiimote. You know how I feel about motion games, but this is all right because your phone you're using it as a flashlight. So you're kind of pointing it at the screen with so it feels like a flashlight, and then you're also kind of tapping to change directions and stuff. But that's all aside. You can play better looking games on PlayStation and these kind of things with motion and all that stuff. The better, real scary horror games. And this one's okay. It's in its beta version on Netflix. But the cool thing is it uses your phone as an actual phone. So while you're playing this horror game, you're talking to your friend who's in another apartment who can see you, and they'll keep calling you, and then it rings on your actual phone. So like you answer it, and then you hear yourself talking out of the TV, but then the actual speaker of the phone person is coming from the phone. You get these like random texts from people. So it's really interactive, and kind of reminds me kind of, not, I wouldn't say groundbreaking, but new stuff in a game. And that's kind of what Legend of Zelda was back in the day. It's very seems real old now, but it was new, just exploring to find things and make it through this game. So check out that Netflix horror game. It's so good, I don't even remember the name of it. You'll know if you see it, that it's out there. Let's talk gaming memories. For me, 5-year-old Scuba, sitting in the basement, watching my stepdad play Zelda and just staring at the screen and probably drooling a little bit. Younger people, hold on to those imaginations if you still got them in your head, if you haven't let this jaded world drive that imagination to the ground. It may seem dumb now with games nowadays looking more HD than real life, but the power of imagination is real. And when I played this game as a kid, the rest of the world just melted away. Like the adventure felt real. The first time you bombed a wall, discovered a cave with that iconic music. As a kid, you felt something come alive. If you're a fan, you felt something come alive back then. And of course, as a kid, like all games, I was terrible at it. I was terrible at this game as a kid, but I didn't care. I loved exploring. Just like Miyamoto, I was a weird kid who spent his time exploring the woods around our neighborhood. So let's get to Hyrule. Let's get back to the 80s, and let's set the scene with another patent pending That Game Rules Timewarp. Grab that whistle. Let's go.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
It's a nostalgia-filled Time Warp. I like this Time Warp this week. Today's sponsor is another puzzle. A question us kids were asking that only a certain cartoon owl can answer. And I'm not talking about that annoying-ass owl from Ocarina of Time.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 3.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
We all know Tootsie Pops, those candy suckers with that gooey Tootsie Roll center, coming in your classic fruit flavors, but also that unique chocolate flavor in that brown wrapper. You remember that guy? Invented way back in 1931 when an employee of the Sweets Candy Company took a lick of his daughter's sucker while chewing a Tootsie Roll, and just like peanut butter and chocolate, the magic happened. Tootsie Rolls, they go all the way back themselves, Tootsie Rolls, to 1896, back when they made them with tobacco and pure molasses. Probably not, but the real story for us kids back then with the Tootsie Pops is that famous playground rumor involving free candy, free merch, all for you if you could find the wrapper with the Indian shooting a star with the bow and arrow. You would turn that sucker wrapper in, you'd live like a king, and all the presents would be coming at you. All fake rumors. None of this was true. How did this make it across the entire country? This Indian shooting the star, if you had it on your wrapper. So telephone game made it way across the country. Some store clerks would honor it. They were thinking they were as cool as like Willy Wonka. Here's your golden ticket and the answer to the question right now. This is it. How many licks does it take to get to that center? Well, science. A student at Purdue concluded it took 365 licks to get to the center using a, quote, licking machine. Settle down, female listeners. I don't think it was a rose or any of those fancy things. The other numbers, they range from 253 to 412 from student experiments. But what if we put real money into this study? Forget the students. We got let's get to the colleges, in particular Florida. They're doing crazy stuff over there all the time. And listen to this. Okay, here we go. Bill Nye right now. In 2014, the Tribology Laboratory at the University of Florida published a study examining the coupled effects of biology, corrosion, and mechanical agitation on the wear of Tootsie Roll Pops. Self-reported wear data from 58 participants was used in conjunction with statistical analysis of actual lollipop cross-sectional information in a numerical simulation to compute the average number of licks required to reach the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Roll Pop. The number of licks required to reach the center, based on equatorial cross-section data, was found to be nearly independent of the licking style, with the one-sided approach requiring 195 plus or minus 18 licks, and the full surface approach requiring 184 plus or minus 33 licks. Detailed examination of the lollipops indicates that the minimum candy shell thickness is rarely, if ever, located along the equator. Using the global minimum distance resulted in a calculated 130 plus or minus 29 licks to reach the center, independent of licking style. You're welcome. Are you still there? So, of course, the equator, you know those Tootsie Pops, it's got that big, thick thing around the center. You don't want to start there. You're going to have to start at the top or something. To this day, scientists still seek the answer to this question, with scholars such as Little Kim and Cisco still trying to figure out this Tootsie Pop riddle.
Tell me, how many licks does it take till you get to the center of the
Well, we may never know indeed, but grab yourself some Tootsie Pop drops. That's a newer candy. And let's head to the theater. Let's check out some movies.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
That was way too much Tootsie Pop knowledge for a Zelda episode. Let's talk some movies. We got some classic cartoons getting the feature-length treatment. You got Care Bears 2. We got My Little Pony, the movie, and, of course, Transformers, the animated movie, and the spoiler, Death of Optimus Prime. Mice, they're also getting the spotlight with Disney for some reason. You have The Great Mouse Detective and An American Tail, as well as some VHS compilations featuring Mighty Mouse, Rocky and Bullwinkle, and Bugs Bunny and the Gang. I forget about a lot of those old cartoons sometimes. I used to watch some Mighty Mouse. Speedy Gonzales, he's running around back in the day. And Rocky and Bullwinkle, some classic Moose and Squirrel. I have not thought about those guys in years. But I want to highlight a movie that fits our Zelda theme today. It's a dark fantasy, but also somehow a kid's movie, like they all were back then. A movie that lives rent-free in my head, and it's not because of David Bowie's huge bulge.
I saw my baby trying hard as babe could try. What could I do? My baby's fun has gone and left my baby blue. Nobody knew.
Oh, what kind of magic spell to use? That's Labyrinth, a movie I get constantly hear in my head. You got teenage Sarah as she journeys through a maze to save her baby brother from the Goblin King. Hilarity ensues, but of course I love some Jim Henson, and George Lucas executive produced this. He didn't want his name to be big and bold. He wanted it to be, Jim Henson's kind of baby there. Those guys were kind of best bros, Jim Henson and George Lucas back in the day. There's a scene in that movie, the helping hand scene, where she's falling down a tunnel and all these kind of gloved hands are grabbing her and making faces and then help her up or something. That scene terrifies my wife to this day. That movie feels more real today than 90% of the CG movies out there. Check it out. Our brains just know. They just know when something's real. It doesn't have to look good, these puppets, these animatronics, these sets from back in the day, but it is so much more real when it's not CG, and your brain knows it. So go watch Labyrinth. Go watch Never Ending Story. Just go admire all that old movie magic. Back at home, check out the lineup on our Saturday mornings back then. We got The Real Ghostbusters. We got Pound Puppies, Pee-wee's Playhouse. Oh, we got one of my favorites right here. There you go. Teaching us all how to spell. Old school Alvin and the Chipmunks. We got the Smurfs. You got G.I. Joe. We got Defenders of the Earth. Thundercats, Silverhawks, and for the ladies, and for my sister, who I'm sure watched this show back in the day.
My little pony, all in a twinkling, spring is here. My little pony, when did all the leaves and grass appear?
Stop. You don't get as much playtime as Alvin and the Chipmunks, My Little Pony. That always makes me, there's a Robot Chicken sketch called Apocalypse Ponies, and they do the same commercial and the same theme song, but they're like, Apocalypse Ponies punish mankind for their sins. And then there's like, Death Pony and Pestilence Pony. It's a good time. The things that stick with you. But what if nothing good was on TV? What if you didn't have any game rentals that weekend? Maybe you went old school and played some board games. Well, lucky for you, listener, because The Legend of Zelda has their own freaking board game for you.
Well, excuse me, princess.
That button's going to get worn out today. Made by Milton Bradley, 1 to 4 players. Nothing like those sad one-player board games. I've been there. I've played board games single player before, just making it up as you go. But you collect hearts, you take out monsters by rolling your die. It's a very watered-down D&D type fighting, similar to the Mario board game of the time. And a lot of those board games are all the same shape. You'll know it when you see it. It's like the box sizes were the same back then. It was all that rectangle box. They made them smaller and, more compact nowadays and save money and blah. But it's nice for any collection. You're looking at about $200 for a complete set. More money if you got those game pieces in there unpunched, of course. I got the old TMNT one right next to me. And back in the day, me and my sister used to play a Smurfs one. There was an old Smurfs board game at my grandpa's we would play. You know why? Because there weren't any video games at my grandpa's house. So speaking of video games, what did The Legend of Zelda have for competition in 1986? Not much. Besides the plumber himself, everything's coming up Nintendo in 1986. There's no console wars yet. At home, we had games like Dragon Quest, Metroid, Mario, of course, Castlevania. It was just the beginning of a lot of world-building games and a whole plethora of game universes being born. It's like the big bang of video gaming. The Master System, that's still around, and they're still pushing Alex Kidd as a mascot before Sonic would put them in the fast lane of gaming competition. And the arcades, they were popping things off like Outrun and Bubble Bobble. Arcades, they were just so cute in the 70s and 80s. Pac-Man and Galaga, before we started ripping spines out in the 90s with Mortal Kombat. Although Link's hookshot, that's kind of like Scorpion. So maybe we're connecting there. We got no hook shot this week. We got no Navi.
Hey, listen!
But it is time to break open that glorious golden box and talk straight Zelda. Let's get into it.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants.
You got me! Oh, yeah!
Our basic game vitals here. The Legend of Zelda, 1986 action-adventure game developed and published by Nintendo for the Famicom over there, or the Famicom Disk System over in Japan. It's the first game in the Legend of Zelda series. It's set in the fantasy land of Hyrule and centers on an elf-like boy named Link who aims to collect the 8 fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom to rescue Princess Zelda from Ganon. The player controls Link from a top-down perspective, the best one, and navigates the overworld and dungeons, collecting weapons, defeating enemies, and uncovering secrets. It was designed and directed by Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka, being in development alongside Super Mario Bros. That released that previous year.
Shut up and take my money.
Let's look at this box art. As Bender would say, bite my shiny metal ass, but in this case, bite my glorious golden ass. Aside from the game and the box itself, you need that true complete in-box bundle. If you want to be the real collector, and it has some very specific pieces of paper in there. So we've got our box, which looks pretty good. They were going for that medieval. It's got that coat of arms on the front there, and if depending on your box, if you're talking the original, which we're gonna, the golden one, it's got one of those squares cut out. It's got a little window in the box so you could see the gold cartridge through the box, and that would catch your eye. You'd see a little shine of gold as you were walking by. So it's got that. It's got your coat of arms. It's got a key, a heart, and a lion. That's all kind of Zelda-like, I guess. But what's inside is what really counts here. We've got the instruction booklet, which I'm going to be referencing heavy today because it's fun. There's a lot of fun stuff in the manual, and everybody knows this game. So we're going to go even farther back. How many of you have really dug through this manual to see what some of these things are actually named to begin with? So you got a 46-page manual in there. You've got your consumer information and warranty booklet. Those are standard Nintendo health and warranty inserts you'll see in all of their first-party titles. You've got a protective plastic bag, because Zelda utilized that unique, highly visible gold cartridge. The original retail plastic bag had a large center hole punched out so the gold would catch up the buyer's eye, like I was saying. And of course, all these boxes come with that little styrofoam spacer, a little block of foam. Now, how many of those are original floating around versus people just making those? You will know. Collectors will know if that is an original styrofoam spacer in that box or not. But the kicker, the biggest item in there, the overworld map.
I'm the map. If there's a place you gotta get, I can get you there, I bet. I'm the map.
That large fold-out paper map outlining the game's secrets and overworld, which was essential for navigating without getting lost, unless you enjoy getting lost in these games, like I did. Anyone can pick this up and read a walkthrough and go through it, but the key to these old games was not having any of that. And I can't tell you to just go back and be a kid and explore in these games again. You know, it's hard to go back if you're a kid and you've got these newer games to play with. But man, there was just something about these exploration games, not just your platformers, but the birth of these finding secrets while mixing the action adventure. And I'll get into it. I'll just go off a little now. Just RPGs in general. We'll get into it. We'll get into the history. We'll get into these RPG growing pains, I guess you could call it. So Zelda, it was released in Japan as a launch game for that Famicom disk system. More than a year later, it's released in North America and Europe on the NES in cartridge format, with the US version being one of, if not the first game, to include an internal battery for saving data. I've seen it said both ways. You know, I'm bad with facts. The Legend of Zelda, it's considered a spiritual forerunner of the modern action role-playing video games. That's RPG, if you don't know that term, role-playing game. Though it is often not considered part of the genre since it lacked a lot of the key RPG mechanics such as XP, such as experience points. The biggest thing that Zelda doesn't have in like RPG terms is experience points. Zelda 2 goes a little more different. They have you leveling up things, as it were, so they started to go that direction. This game in particular had many features in common with RPGs at the time, though, served as a template for the newer action RPG genre. The game's fantasy setting, musical style, and action-adventure gameplay were adopted by many RPGs, of course. It's a successful formula. So the commercial success helped lay the groundwork for involved non-linear games in fantasy settings, such as those found in other successful RPGs. And we're talking Crystallis, Soul Blazer, Square's Seiken Densetsu series I haven't heard of, but I have heard of Alundra, and I don't know what Brave Fencer Musashi is. But those are all, I guess, games in this kind of setting. And it's just kind of, it's like the popularity of the game, I mean, it's based around the RPG, the fantasy, Lord of the Rings type of stuff. But all this back then, when we're talking, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, your tabletop stuff, when you evolved into video games from there, the RPGs, the main ones that Japan was dealing with back then, was a lot of text-based stuff. That's how that's how Dungeon and Dragon works. When it translates to a screen right at the beginning of this genre, you're going to just kind of transfer text-based actions to the screen. And they could be very deep, very developed, but Miyamoto didn't connect to them. He wanted more action. He wanted more live action to see things. You know, when you get this new upgrade, when you get this new shield, he wants to see it on this person. So that all added into the development that we're going to get into here. Miyamoto did not consider Zelda an RPG at all. He classified Zelda as a real-time adventure game. He said he was, quote, not interested in systems where everything in the game is decided by stats and numbers, unquote. He also said, what's important to me is to preserve as much of that live feeling as possible, which he said action games are better suited in conveying that live action to players than those kind of stats and numbers games. So now at least you know where Miyamoto's head was.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
So let's talk about the development. Let's talk about a boy and his imagination. Zelda, as I've said, directed and designed by Miyamoto and Tezuka, his right-hand man, his Luigi. Miyamoto produced the game, Tezuka wrote the story and script, and Keiju Tiro was a screenwriter who worked on anime shows such as Dr. Slump and Dragon Ball, wrote the backstory for the manual, drawing inspiration from conflicts in medieval Europe. And that's why I'm going to go through a lot of that manual today. I didn't even realize Impa was in this game. She goes way back to the original. And just a lot of the other story parts of Zelda in these old games could only be portrayed in things like the manual or Nintendo Power or these outside sources. You couldn't pack it all into the game. Development began in the fall of 1984. That's a nice year. And the game was originally intended to be a launch game for the Famicom Disk System. The development team worked on Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. Concurrently. That's gotta be tough. And they tried to separate their ideas. Super Mario Bros., that's going to be linear. That's where the action occurs in just a strict sequence, whereas they wanted The Legend of Zelda to be the opposite. In Mario, Miyamoto downplayed the importance of the high score in favor of simply completing the game. And I've talked about that before. This is where high score starts to just go away. Even then, as kids, and I've said it before, show me a kid that went on the playground and talked about their high score. It was not like that. It wasn't, what's your high score? It was, did you get the whistle? Did you see this in level 4? Did you know you can get to this bad? It was never about points and high scores, at least for me, on the playground in the 80s and early 90s. So the concept was carried over to The Legend of Zelda, that concept of no high score. We just want to complete the game. Miyamoto was also in charge of deciding which concepts were Zelda ideas or Mario ideas. Contrasting with Mario, Zelda was made non-linear, forced the players to think about what they should do next. In this game, Zelda, you can go to the end dungeon. You can make it to a couple of different dungeons if you want to. You're going to find out real quick that ain't a good idea. You can't get far in the last dungeon, but you can go to dungeon 3 first, and that one's tough if you just got a wood sword and no rings and all that stuff. But that's the point. You discover these things on your own. According to Miyamoto, a lot of people in Japan were confused with this game.
You're killing me, Smalls.
They had trouble finding their way through the multipath dungeons, and in initial game designs, the players would start with the sword already in their inventory, and rather than merely simplifying matters for players, Miyamoto forced the player to listen to that old man who gives the player their sword and encourage interaction among people to share their ideas with each other to find the various hidden secrets, a new form of gaming communication. Miyamoto had seen this in action with other RPGs. I think it was an arcade game that I had written down somewhere. He would see these people around this arcade game sharing these ideas, sharing these secrets, making this small mini community way before the internet or anything, and he wanted that for his game. On a related note, this concept turned into the root of another series to be developed many years in the future. Miyamoto said that Zelda became the inspiration for Animal Crossing, a game based solely on communication. So with The Legend of Zelda, Miyamoto wanted to flesh out the idea of a game world even further, giving players a, quote, miniature garden that they can put inside their drawer. He drew his inspiration from his experiences as a boy around Kyoto, where he explored nearby fields, woods, and caves, always trying through Zelda games to impart players some sense of that limitless wonder he felt through unknown exploration. According to Miyamoto, quote, when I was a child, I went hiking and found a lake. It was quite a surprise for me to stumble upon it. When I traveled around the country without a map, trying to find my way, stumbling on amazing things as I went, I realized how it felt to go on an adventure like this, end quote. And like I said before, I was the same way as a kid. I was always looking for an adventure because I was alone and weird. The memory of being lost amid the maze of sliding doors in his family's home in Shinobi was recreated in Zelda's labyrinthian dungeons. So think of those Japanese houses with all the sliding paper doors. I can picture that being quite maze-like because they slide and close one thing and open another. I love Japanese style and those kind of things like that. I don't know how they must be quiet. I don't know how it's like paper screen houses. Japanese kids must be quiet and awfully respectful and not run around. And I don't know how those things just aren't destroyed. Probably why we got drywall over here, and that barely lasts through half of my kids in their toddler years. According to Miyamoto, early concepts involved technological elements, with the Triforce fragments being electronic circuits, and the game taking place in both the past and the future. Just to complicate things a little more, the hero Link was named with the idea of being the one connecting the two, the past and the future. So there is a little, although they play on that word Link in a lot of games, and I've said it before, that Zelda game, the recent Zelda game, should have been titled The Missing Link. Doesn't that make sense? Wouldn't that? Because it's everything. Anyway, the final game and subsequent games in the series follow a more traditional medieval-like sword and sorcery setting, as opposed to a sci-fi time-traveling Back to the Future game Link could have been in. That'd have been crazy. And finally, the name of the titular princess came from Zelda Fitzgerald.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Miyamoto explained that, quote, Zelda was the wife of famous novelist F. Scott Fitzgerald. She was a famous and beautiful woman from all accounts, and I liked the sound of her name, so I took the liberty of using it for the very first title. And, of course, many years later, Robin Williams would go on to name his daughter Zelda after this game, not after Zelda Fitzgerald. Him and his wife were huge fans of playing Nintendo, and although Zelda herself, the daughter, resented her parents for giving her a name that people would make fun of in school, she has since embraced the name, of course. Robin Williams was your dad. What a freaking life. I couldn't imagine. R.I.P. to one of the most influential actors from my childhood and beyond. Let's talk about the release, because we had some differences. I know I've talked about that disc system between Japanese and North America. So Japan released on their new disc system peripheral, which was, one of those old discs, not an actual cart. The game also took advantage of that system's controller, the Famicom, having a built-in microphone, a feature that the NES model did not include, thankfully. It was used to defeat the large-eared rabbit-like monsters, the Pole's Voice, which the title of their name, Pole's Voice, gives a cue to that as well. By blowing or shouting into the controller, you could defeat them. The U.S. instruction manual still hints that this enemy, quote, hates loud noise, confusing many people in North America into thinking the whistle could be used to attack, which it cannot. Because, it made people think that because you can use the whistle on a different boss in the game. But no effect there. That was just a kind of a holdover there. On the American release, when Nintendo published the game in North America, the packaging design featured that small portion box cutaway to reveal that unique gold-colored cartridge. In 1988, The Legend of Zelda sold 2 million copies. Nintendo of America sought to keep its strong base of fans, so anyone who purchased the game, sent in a warranty card, became a member of the Fun Club, whose members got a 4 or 8 and eventually 32-page newsletter. It just kept growing. 700 copies of the first issue were sent out free of charge, but the number grew as the data bank of names got larger.
Shut up and take my money.
If you don't see where this is going, from the success of magazines in Japan, Nintendo knew that game tips were a valued asset. Players enjoyed that bi-monthly newsletters, puzzles, and jokes, but it was the game secrets that were most valued. The Fun Club drew kids in by offering tips for more complicated games, especially Zelda with its hidden rooms and passageways. The mailing list grew, and by early 1988, there were over 1 million Fun Club members, which led then Nintendo of America president Minoru Arakawa to start the Nintendo Power magazine.
Shut up and take my money.
Just keep taking my money. I wish I had all those. I wonder what those Fun Club newsletters are worth. I didn't look those up, if those are still around from back in the day. But the birth of Nintendo Power, and how much money did Nintendo's hotline make off of people calling in to ask these Zelda questions. Let's talk about the music. It's just 5 tracks and some sound effects, but it's enough to last a lifetime. The original soundtrack, on the NES was composed entirely by legendary Nintendo musician Koji Kondo. Despite being constrained by the primitive 8-bit audio hardware of the 80s, Kondo crafted one of the most recognizable and heavily remixed scores in video game history. Let's talk about it. The last-minute overworld theme that almost never existed. Originally, Kondo intended to use Maurice Ravel's famous orchestral piece, Bolero, as the game's title and main theme. When Kondo would make his music, he had the game first, and he would play the game, whatever game it was, Mario, all these games, he would play the game and make the music after to fit those. In this case, he found that Bolero just played really well while you were playing Zelda. But however, late in the game's development cycle, Nintendo discovered that copyright had not yet expired in Japan. So with the game tracking to launch immediately, Kondo was forced to write a brand new track in just one day. He pulled inspiration from the short melodic motifs he had written for the rest of the game and rearranged them into a fast-paced, heroic march, creating the legendary Zelda overworld theme we know today, the one I'll be playing in just a second. We'll go over the complete track list. Like I said, there's only 5 of them. You got your title screen, that slow, mysterious build-up that sets the tone for an epic adventure. That's the one I did at the beginning of the episode. We got the overworld. It is the most known Zelda theme I'm going to play in a couple of seconds. The dungeon theme, I'll play that later too. It's repetitive, but it's eerie, and it used to freak me out when I was a kid. Your final dungeon, 9, it's got its own music, Death Mountain, just a little different, nothing crazy. But then the ending theme as well, which I hear a lot when I die or when I get a game over. In this case, the ending theme kind of continues that jingle and goes a little more. And then, of course, the sound effects, all of them. You got the small item, you've got the found a secret, you've got collected a piece of the Triforce. That bomb noise, that sword swing noise when you've got it fully hearted up. It's weird that it's so little when you look at just a list like this, but put them all together and you've got some of the best music in video gaming, period. The fan-made music community has transformed that original 8-bit soundtrack into a massive variety of games. Composed initially with only 4 audio channels, these simple melodies serve as a canvas for everything from heavy metal to hip-hop to trance to everything else. Orchestras. You've got full orchestras playing these arrangements alongside gameplay footage I've seen. Just full. I mean, you've got a lot more music once you get into Ocarina of Time and stuff. Oh, there's a lady I follow on TikTok who plays a harp. And like that, the weirdest things we all follow on the internet, right? But I like people and I like their talents. And she plays a lot of Zelda stuff on the harp. There's another lady who does all the Mega Man stuff on her electric keyboard. So those are the things I end up scrolling. And lately, a lot of roller coaster POV videos, apparently. You know how algorithms work. You say it out loud and then it's in your feed. We got a lot of hip hop beats. You've got the classic Zelda and Chill, created by Michael and released via the Game Chops platform. That's apparently like a community favorite for relaxing down-tempo versions of classic Hyrule themes. You got Dungeon Beat remixes. Soulja Boy's up in here, too. He famously sampled the NES theme for his track titled Zelda. You've got other artists as well. You've got probably Vanilla Ice probably took inspiration. Go, go, go. That sounds kind of Zelda. Maybe Lil' Kim took some inspiration. How many licks does it take till you get to the center of the He really wants to know. I can hear the emotion. Cisco wants to know. There were a lot of rock, heavy metal, instrumental covers, a lot of upgraded chiptune and stereos. They're doing it all. It's time for us to jam out now with some more music from the master himself, Koji Kondo. Then it's time to finally start to break down these levels, talk about these items. But first, let's hear some Zelda music. yeah, let's get into some game chat. Let's look at these characters. We got Link. We got Zelda, Ganon, Impa, and we got a senile old man with vague and sometimes unwanted tips.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Did you know Miyamoto was a huge Disney fan? Go ahead and compare Link to Peter Pan to see that inspiration. Designing sprites back then, you needed something unique. It's why Mario's got a mustache and overalls. It's hard to differentiate these characters. So they gave Link his pointy elf ears. He's got a pointy hat. He's got a obnoxiously large shield to give him that character, give him those dimensions, make him feel more alive. Again, referencing the manual a lot today. Lots of manual love, instruction manual. It's got weird grammar, obscure references. It's a good 80s time. But let's talk about these controls.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Grab that brick controller. We're moving Link with the D-pad. We're attacking with the sword. Just one button. Keep it equipped. And then you've got B for your other items, gadgets, treasures, whatever you want to call them. And in classic Zelda fashion, we've got a sub-screen with start. You can't get away from that. You don't want all that stuff cluttering your screen. You want a separate menu for all your items. Although your sword stays equipped, your shield stays equipped. I think it's was like Game Boy, the Game Boy one where Link's Awakening. I feel like I'm constantly unequipping the sword and re-equipping shield and all that kind of stuff. This one's a bit more basic. As far as the story, where are we within that Zelda chronology? The Legend of Zelda takes place as far as, okay, let's get into the timeline before we get into that actual story. Takes place in an era called the Era of Decline, which is part of the Defeated Hero timeline that connects to an alternate reality scenario where the hero of time is defeated by Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. In this era, Hyrule has been reduced to a small kingdom where the residents now live in caves, setting the background for the Legend of Zelda. The Zelda timeline. You make me go cross-eyed sometimes. Everything doesn't have to connect. We don't need to put strings and tacks on the board and connect these things. It's Zelda. It's a story. Dungeons. Go. So the story for this game. The small kingdom of Hyrule is engulfed by chaos when an army led by Ganon,
You son of a bitch,
the Prince of Darkness, invades and steals the Triforce of Power, one part of a magical artifact which alone bestows great strength. To prevent him from acquiring the Triforce of Wisdom, Princess Zelda splits it into 8 fragments and hides them in secret underground dungeons. Before eventually being kidnapped by Ganon, she commands her nursemaid Impa to find someone courageous enough to save the kingdom. While wandering the land, the old woman is surrounded by Ganon's henchmen when a young boy named Link appears and rescues her. Upon hearing Impa's plea, he resolves to save Zelda and sets out to reassemble the scattered fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom with which Ganon can then be defeated. During the course of the tale, Link locates and braves the 8 underworld labyrinths, and beyond there, defeated guardian monsters retrieves each fragment. With the completed Triforce of Wisdom, he is able to infiltrate Ganon's hideout in Death Mountain.
You son of a bitch.
Confronting the Prince of Darkness and destroying him with the Silver Arrow. Obtaining the Triforce of Power from Ganon's ashes, Link returns it and the restored Triforce of Wisdom to the rescued Princess Zelda, and peace returns to Hyrule. Triforce of Courage. You're not in this game, this series, this world yet. Get out of here, Triforce of Courage. I'm not talking about you today. Let's get into the gameplay. Let's get into the manual. If it sounds like I'm talking weird, I'm going to be reading these manual pages. Let's start at the beginning. Link meets all sorts of challenges above and underground. Fighting first starts in the overworld, a land where you cannot tell left from right. What type of places will Link fight and pursue his adventures in? Read on. We've got the overworld. Forests, lakes, mountains. Link must fight many enemies in a beautiful and natural world. We can be pretty certain, however, that some good-natured people living in these places will help him out and be his allies in his fight against evil. And then we've got the underworld. It's an underground maze of dangerous labyrinths. Link will find many enemies hiding inside the labyrinths than he does in the overworld. The fragments of the Triforce of Wisdom that Link is after are hidden somewhere inside these labyrinths. But we got to learn some skills for battling the enemy in this manual. First off, use the sword. Link can use his sword to inflict damage on almost all of the enemy. That's what it says. Use button A for the sword. The enemy will flash when wounded and will be knocked backwards. Link can get 3 types of swords, each with different striking power. These swords are displayed inside frame A at the top of the main screen. The types of swords, we've got your normal wooden little stick. You got your wooden beater sword. You can upgrade to the white sword. That's going to do twice as much damage. And from there, upgrade it again to the magical sword for another 2 times as much damage there. Link can also use the treasures, which we know. Link can use his acquired treasures, such as the bow and arrow, instead of his sword. Use the B button to get those treasures. The treasures that Link can use right now are displayed in frame B above the main screen. So let's get into the game. We all know we start out right there. We're going to go into the cave and get the sword. But the thing I learned while replaying this game, and that makes this game about 4,000 times easier, is the step in the beginning called the gathering. You can, like I said, you can go straight to these dungeons. You can get to dungeon 1 real quick. It's what I used to do. I'd start the game. I'd go right for dungeon 1. I'd get the sword first. But there's tons of things you can do before that. There's a lot of hidden, again, I'm not going to walk through the game because it's an audio podcast. We're going to talk about it. There's locations where you can get your 100-piece rubies, and I'm going to bounce back. And they're called, I know they're rupees with a P. In this manual, they're called rubies with a B. So we'll go with that. I don't know when it changed. Sometimes it says things in the manual and contradicts itself in the game. That's 80s fun for you. That's pre-internet where you can't go back and fix your mistakes. So the gathering, we can get some bombs. You're going to want those. You can find your heart containers up to 6 before you even go in the first dungeon. You can get your white sword upgrade because you need 6 hearts to get that. You can get your magical shield upgrade, which will reduce your damage in half. Or no, it'll just block more things with the shield. The blue ring, that's what you want. That'll increase your defense to take half damage. You can also get the arrows. You can buy those, which aren't actual arrows. It gives you the ability to use arrows when you get the bow, but then it takes a ruby each time you use an arrow. So there's not actual arrow stock like there is bombs. And then you get the letter for the old woman. That's going to allow you to buy the potions or water of life, whatever they call it in this game. Scubas, Zelda tip, numero uno, burn everything and blow everything the hell up.
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah, and also this.
I bent my Wookiee.
Yeah, don't break your sword. Don't bend your Wookiee. You can't. No weapon damage in this game. I love it. I'm Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and your freaking weapon damage. All right, so here we go. Back to the manual with hints on how to destroy Ganon. Those of you who have had trouble playing this game, read the story below. Read it carefully. It has lots of useful hints. Has lots of useful hints. When Impa gave Link the order to destroy Ganon, she also told him of the history of the land of Hyrule and the layout of the 9 secret underground labyrinths. These layouts should be somewhere in this booklet. Did you find them? Relying on what Impa had told him, Link has to somehow make his way to Death Mountain. Link just might be able to find out where the mountain is by carefully studying where and when the monsters appear. In the forests and mountains, there are several caves, and in these caves there live merchants who will sell Link useful items. As well as buying things here, Link can get his hands on other things that he can't get elsewhere. Well, there's some tips for you. For the treasure, the magic, and the mystery. As Link continues his adventure, he will find lots of magical items. If you don't know how to use them, Link will never be able to get the better of Ganon. First off is the rubies. And again, it's spelled rubies like they are in real life. So rubies are the money used in this kingdom. They sometimes appear when Link disposes of an enemy. If Link collects enough of them, he can buy treasure from the merchant. Blue rubies are worth 5 times more than yellow ones. In all, Link can own up to 255 yellow rubies, and he may use them in any way he likes. So no red rubies, no purple rubies, no green rubies even. You got yellow and blue. So let's make our way to the first dungeon, level 1, the Eagle. These dungeons, of course, all being named in the vague shape of the dungeon itself. Picture your grid of squares and then kind of make those squares into a shape and then guess what it is. In this case, it's the Eagle, and let's play some of that dungeon music. Let's set the vibe. See, if you take that dungeon music, add in the boss's close noise, add in I'm out of hearts and its beeping noise, and I'll have a panic attack worse than the Sonic drowning noise from Sonic the Hedgehog. So dungeon level 1, you're going to head straight to that dungeon, and I'm going to name all these enemies from the instruction manual too. But then I'll also probably refer to them as what I called them growing up. Just like a lot of games, I didn't take the time to read books and learn actual names for things. I was a kid, so it was like, even then, Koopas came, but I'm sure when I was a baby playing these games, I was stomping on turtles. Go beat up the turtles before you knew they were Koopas. So in this case, we're introduced to some enemies, the Keese, the Stalfos, the Gel, the Goria, and then you got the Blade Traps, you got the Wall Master. We're going to talk about these in more of our bestiary sections. But in this dungeon, you get the boomerang, you get the bow, and you're going to face Aquamentus, one of the easiest bosses in the game, and just dragon, fight him. But as a kid, getting to that boss, that was scary. I'm fighting a dragon. Like, it's so weird thinking of my younger self just being terrified at these 8 bits on the screen. Back to the manual, lots of amazing things happen in the springs Link finds here and there. The fairies will give Link a whole new supply of life hearts. These aren't the only secrets to be found. The entrances to the underground labyrinths are hidden all over the place. There are also some entrances that are really hard to find. Nevertheless, somewhere you'll be able to find hints on how to solve these riddles, and once Link's found a labyrinth, he'll always get an item of treasure. Speaking of some of that treasure, you've got your sword already. What else do we need? We're going to need a good shield. So you're going to use the shield to fend off the enemy's attacks. You got your basic shield. Link has this from the start of his adventures. Use it to protect him from the spears and rocks that the enemy throws. And then you get the magic shield. It's bigger. It's badder. You can fend off more spells, more rocks. It can fight off Zola's balls from the water she's throwing at you. And of course, you've got your hearts. The white hearts will tell you how wounded Link is. The life hearts at the top of the screen turn white as you're getting damage. There's no heart pieces in this game. We're just collecting whole hearts, but that is your heart breakdown. It's pretty obvious. If it's red, you're good to go. Level 2, the moon. We're going straight to the dungeon. Use your map.
I'm the map, I'm the map. If there's a place you gotta get, I can get you there, I bet. I'm the map.
We got ropes, which are snakes, moldorms, stone statues, which were always fun, those statues. Number 1, scary. You touch a statue and suddenly it's attacking you. And then number 2, now you want to touch all the statues to see if they move and if there's a secret under there. In this dungeon, you get the magical boomerang, and we are going to take down Dodongo. He's in a lot of these bosses carry through the series. So if you know Dodongo, big lizard guy with a big thick shell, you got to make him eat the bombs. It's actually a cool boss. I mean, you can affect him by just blowing up bombs around him, but if you put a bomb right in front of him, he's going to gobble that thing up. You see him explode. It's a little cartoony. It's just what you want out of the game. Miyamoto also loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it shows, because Indiana Jones is heavy in this game. He would have hated this dungeon. There's a lot of snakes in this dungeon. But Zelda games, it just always felt like Indiana Jones movies to me. The action adventure with the puzzle solving. It's crazy that Link never got a whip for a weapon. I guess he's got hookshot. I guess Castlevania kind of does the whole whip thing. Back to the manual. Carry weapons such as boomerangs, etc. to match the enemy. This way Link can proceed with the fight more effectively. The skill to switch over quickly to the treasure select screen and swiftly take out the treasures is really important. There's no real way to switch over quickly. You're pausing, the thing scrolls up, takes 10 minutes. If you got the skill, Link will be able to win through to the end. The labyrinth level display is important. It shows Link the way. If Link does not fight in the right level order, he might meet a miserable end at the end of the labyrinth. Don't rush forward too fast. It's dangerous. A lot of the art from the manual is great as well. It is the art style of Zelda and Link that I enjoy. I'm not a big Wind Waker fan of the art and I guess the game itself. I know that's a lot of people's favorite. I am right between this game, Link to the Past, Link's Awakening, up to Ocarina of Time. this is my era of Zelda that I enjoy. So I am really excited about that Ocarina of Time remake. I'll be neglecting this podcast to play that for sure. Let's talk about some of these items. You've got the heart container, which I've already mentioned. You've got the fairies, which are gonna fill up your whole life there. We're not putting them in bottles or anything yet. But we've got the keys and we got the magic key. Link needs these to open locked doors in the labyrinths. The magical key is very useful. Although you get it at the end of the game, Link can use it over and over again. Once he's got the magical key, all your other keys are pretty much useless. But you can bank tons of keys. You can get to level 8 with like 6 keys in your pocket if you know what way you're going. Another item, we've got the ladder. This item of treasure lets Link cross holes or rivers that are as wide as he is. And the raft. Link can float across seas and lakes when he launches this from a dock. The ladder and the raft, kind of just environment type of items, I guess. Nothing you can really use. We'll get into level 3, the manji. And we've got to talk about this one a little bit. Because the manji and the swastika go kind of together. So I mentioned these levels are all kind of shaped like vague things on how they're and then named off of those kind of vague shapes. Well, the manji, to a lot of people, does look like a swastika. It is in this case, it's the manji. Let's talk about it a little bit because it's a little off-putting when you see that map and you're like, whoa, level 3's got some stuff going on. So the manji is a traditional Asian religious symbol representing peace, prosperity, and good fortune, while the swastika is a symbol heavily appropriated by Nazi Germany in the 20th century to represent hate, anti-Semitism, and white supremacy. Frickin' Nazis. So the manji traditionally faces left, sits perfectly flat, like this level is shaped as, while the swastika, the Nazi version, its faces right, so it's flipped and then tilted diagonally. So they took this image, made it their own, added all the hate to it. As far as the ancient origins, the symbol itself predates the Nazis by thousands of years. It originates from the Sanskrit word svastika, meaning well-being or good fortune. It has been utilized for millennia across Hinduism, Buddhism, as a symbol of the sun, auspiciousness, and the cycle of life. I've seen it on ancient Egyptian walls and sarcophaguses and things. It's an ancient part of history, meaning good things, and it's just another thing the Nazis ruined forever.
Now we know.
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Frickin' hate those Nazis. I hate them. G.I. Joe, just go over there and kick some Nazi butt. They stole the manji. They stole the Hitler mustache. Nobody can wear that mustache anymore. Hitler took a style and destroyed it forever. Not that I want to rock the Hitler stash. And they stole the long trench coat look. You can't just wear a long trench coat anymore without looking like a Nazi. And they just took that. I mean, say what you will about those evil bastards. They dressed pretty stylish. In this dungeon, we've got Zol. It's like a bigger gel. We've got Darknut. And I'll go over these guys in a little bit. And you get the raft here in level 3. And our boss is Manhandla. It's got like 4 heads, like a Venus flytrap type thing. The bosses are getting bossy. This guy's shooting stuff at you while you're trying to take 4 heads out of them. Some of the enemies, some of the nasty characters Link bumps into in the overworld. We got Tektites. Those are the spider guys. These spidery things jump about all over the place. Red ones move about a lot, and blue ones move only a little. Tektites have little fighting power. That's what you say, Manual. The Tektites are one of the worst enemies in the game for me. I can't tell where they're bouncing. They're always attacking me when I'm going upstairs, and I don't like it. We got the Octoroks, a type of octopus that lives above ground. There are 2 types, red and blue. Watch out for the blue ones. They're mean. They spit out rocks at Link. At least I know those guys, the Octoroks, because they're octopus and rocks. So I think I've got that one. We've got the Lever. These are like the spinny blade guys in the desert that come up out of the ground. They live in the ground and eat up the energy of creatures that approach them. The blue ones are a little stronger, but the red ones don't have much attacking power. And then we've got the Pea-Hat. This is the little flower thing that spins and flies around. The Pea-Hat has little attacking power. This is a ghost of a flower that bounces and flutters around the place. Link can eliminate it only when it's standing still. So I know those guys. We've got the classic Moblins. Come on, these pig face guys. It's a bulldog-like goblin who lives in the forest. He attacks by throwing spears, a little bit meaner than Octorok. I don't know why they're comparing the moblin of all creatures to the Octorok, but that's our classic. And then we've got the Armos. That's a soldier who has been turned into a stone statue. He moves and attacks if touched by Link. He's got a fair amount of attacking power, and he will move very fast and very randomly. So watch out for him. And then we've got the Genie, the ghost who lives in the graveyard. There are two types. There are Guineas who are there from the beginning of the game and those who appear when Link touches the gravestone. Guineas have about the same attacking force as Armos. And then the Lynels, the guardian who attacks all those who come near Death Mountain. Watch out, he's pretty strong, and Link's little shield can't stop his sword. You need the big shield to take those guys on. They're just as tough as Breath of the Wild. They're like the main guys, and it's just a little horse-looking guy with a pointy little sword. We'll get into some more enemies as we keep going. Let's move on to level 4. In this case, you got the raft now. It's going to open up some overworld secrets. You're going to get you some rubies, get you some heart containers. Make your way to this next dungeon. Some of the new enemies there. You got the Vire. Those are like the demons that hop around. You got the like. We'll talk about those shield stealing bastards. And then in level 4, you get the step ladder, just another environmental handy little object there. And you're taking on Gleeok in this guy, but he's only got 2 heads. So now we got the 2-headed dragon. It's like when you attack him, his head will pop off, it'll fly around and shoot stuff at you. So we're getting a little more advanced here. And the old man, he's around these dungeons too, giving you advice. I like the tips, I like the hints. Just barely a sentence that can send you in the right direction for some other things. In this case, he's going to give you some useful advice, telling you to walk into the waterfall. That's one of my favorite Zelda secret reveals, and that they carry it in through all the other games, just like they do with the draining of the lake. Besides obvious things like bombs that carry through. I like in A Link to the Past, the waterfall and that and stuff. Back to the manual. Lots of riddles are hidden in the underground labyrinths. Once Link's found the map and the compass, he can go forward, checking each of the passageways one by one, walk around, find all the rooms. For this, Link will have to increase his possessions a lot. In the underground labyrinths, Link will come across some doors that'll close behind him once he's passed through them. Yet, there's always a way of opening them and escaping. Even if Link's closed in on all sides, he's not allowed to give up. Try anything to get out. As we move on to level 5, the Lizard, and we're going to head to the graveyard, see where it's at on your map.
I'm the map, if there's a place you gotta get, I can get you there, I bet. I'm the map!
Listen!
No, Navi, you're not in this game. We've got the Genie, like we were talking about, the ghost in that graveyard kind of puzzle. That's another one. Moving the gravestone to figure out where to go, figure out secrets, figure out dungeons. Another one that carries through the series. You're going to pick up the power bracelet. You're going to get your last sword upgrade, because if you've been getting everything you should be, you can have 12 hearts now. Of course, this is all you can make it through with a little bit. But if you did get your 12 hearts, you can go get that last sword upgrade. I think that's the one in the graveyard. Again, between all this, it's a lot of Zelda stuff. I'm sure I'll mix some stuff up and miss a bunch of things. Write me and let me know. So you're going to enter the Lost Hills. That's that mountain maze kind of at the top. Another thing that carries through between things like the Lost Woods and stuff. In this case, you remember the trick. You're going to walk straight up 4 times to get to that dungeon. Now we're going to have the Pole's voice in here, the rabbit things. We're going to have the Gibdo, those mummies. And now that we're farther in the game, a lot of our old bosses are now just becoming normal enemies in the dungeon. You're going to run into Dodongos. You're going to run into Manhandlas and those kind of things. And in this level, we get the whistle or the magic flute or the magic recorder. Call it whatever you want. There's also bomb upgrade you can get in here. I think you get enough upgrades, 3 of them. I think you can carry 16. Is it 6, 12? 6, whatever it is. There's a bomb upgrade in here, and this boss is Dig Dogger. And if you listen to the old man, he gives you a hint. He says Dig Dogger hates a certain type of sound. And I wonder what that could mean. If you're not going to scream into your Famicom controller, you bust the whistle out. He's like a big eyeball thing. No, not well, kind of. He's a big ball, and your whistle thing turns him into a little ball, and then you beat him up. So that's Dig Dogger. But also the old man has another piece of advice for you. He says that secret power is said to be in the arrow.
It's a secret.
Shut up.
That might confuse you if you didn't know that he's talking about the boss in the next dungeon. So good luck with that. More items from the manual. They're not weapons.
Forget about the page! When do we get the freaking guns?
There's no Zelda's getting no guns in this game. So you've got maps and compasses. Link can discover the entire layout of the labyrinths with this map, and by using the compass, he can find out where the Triforce fragments are hidden within the labyrinths. Next, you've got the letter to the little old lady. It's a weird step in order to access potions, but I like it. I like a weird little thing like that. When you choose this letter at the sub-menu and press the B button, Link can show the letter to the little old lady who lives inside one of the many caves. You've got the blue and the red rings. The blue ring reduces the damage inflicted by the enemy by half, and the red ring reduces damage again by another quarter. The power bracelet. This bracelet gives Link amazing inner strength. He can even lift giant rocks. Another thing that carries through the game, power gloves and stuff later on. Then you got the magical clock, not an item to pick up, an item enemies will drop. In that will freeze all the enemies in place on that screen. It actually comes in pretty handy if you got a lot of enemies packed on the screen there. When you're going through these dungeons, it'll switch to like a two-dimensional kind of view, and it's I don't know why, it's weird and unique. It's always like the bats and the keys are around when you're going up and down those ladders, so it's weird negating that in a now kind of 2D, but also moves like 3D and attacks like 3D still. So I like those two. They bring it back in Link's Awakening. They really bring it back in Zelda 2 before we throttle way back from that 2D and get back to some overworld stuff. But I don't know why. I don't know why it speaks to me. Like I said, they went all the way on Zelda 2. I can't wait to die a bunch replaying that gem so I can do an episode. Let's make our way to level 6, the dragon. We're getting some classic, the whiz robes. Those wizard guys. You got orange ones, you got blue ones. All these enemies, just in classic Nintendo fashion. For when I think of these to the Super Nintendo, they upgrade. Everything's an upgrade. They look better. It's the same thing, but everything just looks better, does a little more, before they go 3D with it, and everything's just really weird. In this case, the item you're getting is the magical wand. It's kind of you can use it kind of as a ranged, but without taking your rupees. It's like your bow and arrow will. I found, and I've always been I like the hook shot when I'm talking like Super Nintendo, boomerang, like a lot of things in Super Nintendo. So replaying this, I thought I'd be all up in my boomerang, but I was using the candles. I would just drop a flame, let it toast a couple of guys while I'm out there swinging. So my candle was equipped a lot. I never really had the magical wand, even after the upgrade. I was just rocking those candles. In this case, you're going to fight Goma. That's another enemy, carries around forever. That's the big spider skeleton looking thing. First boss from Ocarina of Time, I think. In this case, take the old man's advice, aim at the eyes of Goma. You get, I think, one arrow in the eye is going to take out Goma, and you can be done. We've got more enemies to look at here. You got the like, and this is out of the manual again. It's like the worm-like thing. It says a tube-like monster that has a soft spot for magic shields. He eats them up. There is nothing like losing your shield to one of those guys. It's as bad as the Master Hand taking you back to the beginning of the dungeon. We got the Gibdos, the Mummy Man. He's got some strange powers and some pretty powerful attacking force. Then we've got Moldorm, the huge worm living inside the labyrinths. It grows smaller as Link attacks it. It's not so strong. Dodongo, we talked about, a giant rhinoceros. It hasn't got so much attacking power, but it bounces off attacks with its thick hide. Manhandla, we've mentioned. That's a large man-eating flower with hands sticking out in all four directions. It moves faster as it loses its hands. It's pretty mean, so watch out. And Aquamentus, a type of dragon that some call a unicorn. I don't know why. As well as having lots of attacking power, it's a fearful opponent. It emits mean beams. That's what it says in the game. It's more like little fireballs, but I guess beams is okay too. Moving on, we got more enemies.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
We've got the Patra, and that's a lot. That's one just really towards the end of the game. It's like a spinny. It's got a group of little ones around it. like spinning in formation. So that one's tough. That's like end game enemies. Dig Dogger. Oh, it's a big sea urchin. Okay. In spite of their big bodies, they shrivel up when attacked, but watch out, they come on pretty strong. I think that's the one with the whistle. And then you got Goma. I was wrong. I thought Goma was a spider. Goma, the super huge crab that lives in the labyrinths. Its hard shell will repulse any attack its weak point with a special weapon. It's going to be your bow and arrow. And we got Gleeok. Okay, a dragon. I knew it was a dragon. A huge dragon that has 2 to 4 heads and spits out beams at Link. They're not beams, they're little balls. Heads that Link cuts from its body fly around in the air as the head of Gleeok. And then you've got the bubble, which I always thought was like, I called it like a spark. Like a Mega Man kind of spark. But the bubble, those ball things, it's the spirit of the dead. When it clings onto Link, he won't be able to unsheath his sword for a while. Okay. We're going to move on to level 7, the Demon. I'm surprised that made it in. Nintendo of America, they don't like any sort of demon talk, any religious talk. We didn't get as deep as I wanted to in the RPGs of Japan at the time. And censoring things over here in America. Like even the cross on Link's shield, it seems to be a big deal, at least back then. So as we head for the Demon, you're going to stop and pick up some bait. That's a weird little item on your way to Dungeon 7. That was fun as a kid, trying to figure out what that was for. We're going to head to the pond, use the whistle to drain it to access the secret passage. I love it so much.
Shut up and take my money.
You get it? Yeah. Shut up and just take the money. You got the Hungry Goya. That's our little friend here. He's going to take the bait, move out of the way. We got the Stalfos, the Skeleton Warriors. And in this dungeon, you're going to get the red candle and the bomb upgrade. With the red candle upgrade being now you can use it multiple times on the same screen. Something like some of the upgrades do some things better than others. It's a good upgrade though. And then like the lamest fight ever for Dungeon 7 is Aquamentus again, but it's the exact same fight from the first dungeon, so it's not any tougher, and now you're super equipped. The old man, he gives us a little advice in this dungeon. He says there's a secret in the tip of the nose.
It's a secret.
Shut up.
It only works if you have that shape of the dungeon map, in which case it shows the tip of the nose is where the secret entrance is to make it farther in the dungeon. I think that's what that was. Back to the manual. Let's talk some more items. You got the wooden boomerang and the magical boomerang. Link can use these to inflict damage on weak enemies. He can also stop most of the enemies in their tracks if he throws the boomerang on target. The magical boomerang flies further than the wooden boomerang. So that's another upgrade there. I know originally too, I know you can't diagonal sword fight. Miyamoto wanted to diagonal sword attack and these kind of things when developing this game, but of course technical limitations, you're getting away with your 4 directions there. And we got the bomb. That's so classic. Set one of these, Link can overpower the enemy with an explosive blast. It says for each bomb he picks up, he gets 4 bombs. Link can carry at most 8 bombs at the beginning of the game. He can't have any more than this number, so use them sparingly. That's what those upgrades are for. And then you've got the bow, and you got wooden and silver arrows. Link can use them only if he has both the bow and an arrow. For each arrow Link shoots, he loses 1 ruby. Oh, by the way, there are some enemies that can be disposed of using only the bow and arrow, so be alert. We're going to move on to what is almost the final dungeon, at least to get our Triforce piece back together. Level 8, the Lion. It's a tricky one to find. It's a little kind of random bush you got to find. But you're going to burn that final bush. Find it on the map.
I'm the map, I'm the map. If there's a place you gotta get, I can get you there, I bet. I'm the map.
And this dungeon's pretty intense. There's some screens where there are a lot of enemies on the screen at one time. There's lots of old bosses to fight, more Dodongos, more of those guys. You're going to get the magical book in this dungeon. That upgrades the wand that I don't even use. So now your wand spits fire. And then you'll get the magical key. Now that you're at the end of the game and don't need any more keys anyway, you get a magical key to unlock doors that you wouldn't have needed keys for anyway. And your boss here is going to be Gleeok, except he's got 4 heads now. For 4 times the fun. The last 2 enemies we got, I haven't gone through yet, is Zola, half fish, half woman, if you didn't know, who lives in the water. It's like a siren's call. When she sticks her head out of the water, she lets out a ball that Link's little shield can't hold back. And then our final enemy of the game, Rock. These rocks crumble off Death Mountain and fall down to attack Link. He can't destroy these natural nuisances. Indeed, he cannot. So that's the final. They just call it a rock. That's okay. Level 9, we're here, Death Mountain. You've assembled the Triforce because, as the old man will tell you, one who does not have the Triforce can't go in. So you can make it into this last dungeon on Death Mountain. You've got the Land Mola as a new enemy and the Patra that we've mentioned, at least that one. And you're going to pick up the red ring and the silver arrows that you're going to need both. Well, at least for sure, you're going to want them. You're going to need the silver arrows. And as far as the dungeon, it's made, it's designed for you to run around, get lost, and kind of get your ass kicked. You probably want some water of life to go with you as you go in there, some potions. Speaking of the last of these items here, we talked about the blue and red candles. I mean, a lot of dark rooms. That's fun, too. You go into a dark room, light it up. At least in this, it just like stays lit. It's not like Link to the Past where you're constantly lighting those lanterns. So use these to brighten them up. Blue candles are good for one screen only, but the red ones can light up rooms for several screens. The whistle, a really mysterious magical item. Use it and it'll amaze you with what it can do. We got the enemy bait. Link can use this bait to lure the enemy and bump them off as they come to eat it, but watch out, this doesn't work for some of the enemy. And the water of life. Drink this and all of Link's life hearts will turn red. Red water turns blue when Link sips it. Drink the blue water, and that's the last of the water. And those potions work. The red one works as like a double tap, whereas your blue one's a 1 use, your red's a 2 use. No magic or anything yet in this game, so you're just getting some life out of those potions. And finally, the lamest, the magic wand.
You're killing me, Smalls.
It says it is the wand that Wizrobe uses. Wave it to let loose magical spells. What's more, if Link picks up the magic book, learns some new spells, he can chant some fiery spells and send out some flames. So we've got the Triforce. You've got the fragments of the Triforce are hidden in the enemy labyrinth levels. They are arranged as shown in this picture, which shows you your little, on your screen, it shows you your little Triforce counter up there. Some of the things that some of the advice from the old man in this dungeon as well. One of his pieces of advice is go to the next room. So I appreciate, it's been a long game. It's been a long journey. I don't know where I'm going. The old man's pointing the way. As a guy, you don't ever stop and ask for directions. So this guy's he's telling us the way. Finally, we're going to take on the main man himself, Ganon.
You son of a bitch.
He can be random and annoying. Your magical shield, that's useless now. But hit him 4 times till he turns brown. Got a silver arrow to the face. It's going to take this clown down for good. As we get in one of our last pages of the manual here, Link's going to have a difficult time trying to destroy Ganon. He's real mean, but even Ganon has his weak point. Some friendly character in the game is sure to tell Link about it. Hint, hint. Link has destroyed Ganon and has managed to rescue the Princess Zelda. Now that he's got a hold of the 2 Triforces, he once again goes off on his travels, making his way towards countries unknown. Who knows what the future holds for Link? Good job. Now, turn your game back on and start again. We've got second quest, baby. New dungeons, new items. They're in different locations. It's all mixed up a bit. So you do get second quest, which is kind of a happy little Bob Ross mistake, I guess. Like they're utilizing a programming mistake where the dungeons technically fill like a whole square grid. So with these dungeons, when they use shapes, like we were talking about here, they're leaving all these extra rooms, in which case, code-wise, you would have these extra rooms to fill in those and make, think of 2 puzzle pieces going together. So they made these shapes and essentially have this whole other puzzle piece of dungeon that coding-wise they forgot. However it worked, he realized that none of that got added. Techie stuff aside, they essentially ended up with a whole nother game. They were worried that taking out those dungeons and that mistake would cause like the original game to be too short or too easy. That wasn't the case. Zelda 1 plays great. It was actually more challenging than they thought for people. So now they're just like, we'll make a whole new game. It's called Second Quest. They realized how fun and challenging the first one is, so they just made another one, did it again. I haven't played all the way through Second Quest. that's the one where it's like I don't want to look anything up. I want to go into that fresh and just Zelda my way through that one. So that's going to be a good time someday. I don't think Second Quest is going to get its own episode or anything. But speaking of Second Quest, speaking of cheats and codes, it's a secret to everybody. That's how secrets work.
It's a secret.
Shut up.
So it's got plenty of Game Genie codes here, and if you want to jump right to Second Quest, you can enter in Zelda for your name. Also, there's a weird kind of secret code, I guess, during the game. I think if you pause it, pick up your second controller, push up and A, it will take you directly to your save menu. I think it refills your hearts, too. It's something weird. It was like a glitch, and then they just left it in there, because why not? For trivia, I looked into some speed runs, and I got some cool info on it. Let me pull up the speed run info. Just let me pause a second. All right. That sounded kind of weird. Hopefully that didn't sound weird on the playback here. So I'm on the speedrun.com. We've got an any percent no up plus A, and that, I'm doing this live. We're going to look at that rule to make sure. So timing begins with control of Link on the overworld. Duh. Let's see. Timing ends. Yep. Okay. So up and A on controller 2 is not allowed. And that is, yes. So game over should be avoided. All runs must begin from a system reset. Only the NES version. So yeah, no up and A, no bouncing to your save file and redoing hearts or anything. So any percent, no up and A. We've got Schicksal, a German, or from Germany. 27 minutes, 40 seconds. Any percent period of anything. Same guy, 26 minutes. So what was that other one? Just slightly. So what is, still no game overs and stuff. Anyway, so 100%, let's just do a straight 100%. Same player, Schicksal, 33 minutes for 100%. And that was on the Famicom. What's low percent? Low percent, let's see what the rules are here. Link must not acquire heart containers. The letter, blue potion, boomerang. Oh, so it's just tons of stuff. This is a run that requires the players to complete the game with as few upgrades as possible. Only those required to win the game are permitted. When the game ends, the player should have only 3 hearts and a wooden sword. That sounds fun. But Schicksal's at it again with 35 minutes on that one. Swordless. Let's see exactly what the rules say there. No swords ever. Run ends at Ganon. So you don't even defeat Ganon. The run ends when you get to Ganon. No swords. I guess you can use everything else. We've got that. Okay, not. Okay, Schicksal's in 4th on this one. And we've got Lack Attack, an American, at 32 minutes. This was 7 years ago. 2 more. We have Ace. I don't know. There's no runs found. Let me see what the rules say. No one's done it. Save Princess Zelda using Ace or other major sequence breaks. Oh, it's only on Second Quest. All right. Last one, Extreme Rules. I want to see this one. Extreme Rules, we'll go the winner first. It was Lack Attack again with 1 hour and 8 minutes. So what are the extreme rules to cause you to go that hard? Let's see. The basis for our rules is the gameplay behavior should be replicable with a simple setup. I got that. Yeah. Oh, that's the... All right, here we go. Oh, there's a lot of stuff. No glitches. No block clips or screen scrolls of any kind. No swords. No extra hearts. No potions, rings. No boomerangs. No magic book. No magic shield. All maps and compasses. Must obtain both bomb upgrades. Silver arrow. No killing overworld enemies. That's a big one. But you must kill every boss and mini-boss. And you must visit every dungeon room. That's a big... People are getting bored of these speed runs. We just got to make up crazy stuff now. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Well, let's get back into it. Let's talk a little legacy here. Of course, it's received highly positive reviews from critics. It was a bestseller for Nintendo. Let's see, we got 1 million copies on the first day of release in Japan. In North America, it was highly anticipated, became the first NES game to sell over 1 million carts, increasing to more to 2 million by 1988, and it went on to sell 3 million cartridges by 1990, eventually 6.5 million copies worldwide.
Well, excuse me, princess.
Reissued in 92 as part of Nintendo's Classic Series. That's why you see a gray card out there. The game placed first in the players' poll for top 30, and Nintendo Power's first issue continued to dominate the list into the early 90s. The magazine also listed it as the best Nintendo Entertainment System video game ever created, stating that it was fun despite its age and innovative in the genre. Games Radar ranked it the third best NES game ever made. The staff praised its mix of complexity, open world design, and timeless graphics. The Legend of Zelda spawned a solitary sequel, many prequels and spin-offs, and is one of Nintendo's most popular series. It established important characters and environments of the Zelda universe, including Link, Princess Zelda, Ganon, Impa, and the Triforce as the power that binds Hyrule together. GameSpot featured Legend of Zelda as one of those 15 most influential games of all time, for being an early example of open-world, non-linear gameplay, and its introduction of battery-saving backup, laying the foundations for later action-adventure games like Metroid and role-playing games like Final Fantasy, while influencing most modern games in general. And then in 2009, Game Informer called The Legend of Zelda, quote, no less than the greatest game of all time on their list of the top 200 games of all time, saying that it was ahead of its time by years, if not decades.
Shut up and take my money.
That's right, and this.
I bet my Wookiee.
But now it's time for some of your thoughts, time for some awards from yours truly. Just as long as that dumbass owl from Ocarina of Time doesn't show up, let's get into it.
Aren't you a little old for video games?
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony.
All right, just pulling a few comments this week because the internet's just one long list of how great Zelda is, and I agree with all of you. If you want to send me some Zelda hate mail, send it on over. thatgamerules@gmail.com. Let's hash it out. I'll defend this game. So we've got Genergery47. Says, this is a game I have zero nostalgia for, as I started with A Link to the Past on SNES in the 90s, and yet it surprised me as an adult when I first played it. Sure, there's some classic 8-bit nonsense in there, but overall the game holds up a lot better than I think people give it credit for. When I compare it to other games of the same era that are downright infuriating to play, looking at you, Zelda 2 and Metroid, it stands to be far more enjoyable. Thanks for your comment there. That's for having no nostalgia for it and to go backwards to it. I'm interested if my kid could ever sit through a game like this. I'm excited that he will hopefully play Ocarina of Time, the remake, because, he won't, kids. I doubt he'll sit through the 64 version. Some of my younger listeners, you guys are the coolest. Young kids that are into retro gaming, I think is amazing. When you've got all these other options out there, this is nostalgia for me. Even though I like new indie games that have retro aesthetics to them. Again, one of my kids' friends is big into making video game music, essentially. Not for video games, but he uses those things words I've said on the show, those things that make the video game sounds, those weird machines. Like, he's all into making music with that, which I'm going to get some of his music on the show someday. I'm busy, but I like to throw, it's good. He's on Spotify. I'll get the name. You'll see. We have JARDTR. You guys, some of these names, I don't know what it says. He or she says, I played this game a bunch as a kid and always liked it, but I never got very far and mostly just messed around killing monsters. I played it to completion about 10 years ago as an adult, and I was amazed at how well it holds up. It is remarkably well designed. And appreciate your comment. I was that kid too, just messing around, killing monsters. All my games at this age, this Nintendo age, was level 1 and 2. Like, that is it. We got Chewed here. says, that was my first Zelda game. No, I wasn't born in the 80s, but my parents bought an NES as an anniversary gift to themselves before I was born. So some of my earliest memories are The Legend of Zelda, Super Mario 1 and 3, Dr. Mario, TMNT, etc. When I was like 8, I got an N64 as a gift. The jump from Legend of Zelda to Ocarina of Time was insane to me, and I had no idea I skipped several games and a whole generation at the time. I don't blame you. You're only 8 years old. You're just going to play what your parents put in front of you. He says, in high school, I bought a used SNES and finally played A Link to the Past. It didn't take long for me to realize it was the missing link. I see what you did there. And honestly felt like the best of both games I knew beforehand. To this day, it's still my favorite Zelda game and has aged far better than Zelda 1 or Ocarina of Time. I agree so much with that. I'm going to give you some clapping sound. It is like I said, you can give it to a kid today, not whether or not they play it and enjoy it, whether or not they know that it's a retro game. Throw something like Legend of Zelda. Now that we've gotten through, it was like a break in the wall of video games where everything was getting so good, so good, so good. And then these indie studios started putting out these games with retro art, retro graphics. And everyone was like, we still love this stuff. So it's not just about your next GTA when it comes to what makes a game great. Final comment here from Super Turbo Edition says, I played this game like 2 years ago. I drew out on paper the entire world so I could keep track of everything and beat the game without looking up anything online. It was a really good experience, and there isn't much bad I can say about it. I even kept the map because I was so proud of myself. Final comment, I don't know if you can hear my sister's dog barking up there. That's your dog, Kelly, if you're listening, interrupting my podcast. I was the same. Hand drawing maps as a kid. What other games did that? Metroid, that's a big one for hand drawing maps. It was Metroid. There was one, was it Blaster Master? Did I have to draw maps for that, or did I just suck at it? They all blend together after a while. But I like that. I like that you kept it. Frame that thing, that old map you had to make. That's what I'm going to do when I play Second Quest someday. I'm going to be down with a pencil. Let me draw my own map. Let's see what awards I get. Let's open up that chest, and let's see what treasures are inside. All right, first award's going to be the Water Temple Award. It's going to be for my favorite puzzle of the game. Number 3, shout out to all the Hyrule destruction Link is bringing. I've spent hours burning every bush, blowing up every piece of wall I could find. Long before Link was spending his days smashing pots, we had plenty to explore and discover. So I appreciate the destruction. Number 2, enemy bait. Classic dungeon enemy distraction. Comes medium rare. That's a nice warm red center. Throw in some of that pumpernickel from Outback Steakhouse or those cheddar biscuits from Red Lobster.
Shut up and take my money.
I'm telling you. And finally, the winner, it's going to be Drain the Lake. Another Zelda staple that will carry over to future games. It's that Indiana Jones style puzzle solving that I want out of my Zelda games. So I like that one. Award number 2, It's Dangerous to Go Alone award. It's going to be for the best weapon besides our magical sword, which hopefully I called it the magical sword this whole episode and not slipped and called it the master sword, because it's technically not that yet, because I still don't know what freaking era of the timeline we're in with our game here. But number 3, silver arrows. They're more symbolic than anything, but since Ganon has that whole werewolf vulnerability, I guess, with silver, it takes the silver arrows to beat this game and send Ganon back to Dark World or wherever he's from in this timeline. Number 2, the deadliest of all weapons, a simple wax candle. Besides burning secret bushes and lighting up rooms, I was just getting a lot of play, just firing off some fire into a crowd of moblins. Fireball, fireball, fireball. Link's out here. He's just LARPing some magic at these guys. But number 1, it's going to be my favorite. It's going to be the MVE, the most valuable explosive. You know it's going to be the bomb. You got more secrets to discover. You got more crowds of enemies to drop a bomb into. It's just give me a cave of all those dodongos and let me just shove some bombs in them, and we'll just have a good old time. Award number 3, it's Morphin Time Award. We're gonna shout out some of that sprite artwork. I love these NES games when you can compare the enemy art from the manual to the 8-bit sprite they came up with. It's exactly what I was doing. It's some of my favorite prep is reading the old manuals on NES games. You lose it as you get into your 64s and beyond, but comparing what they had in their head versus what they managed to put on the screen, it's where you end up with things like, is that a dragon or a unicorn? And then you just make up a name and roll with it on the playground. So in this case, you got those 8-bit sprites. You got so many new enemies in this new fictional world. The moblins look great. Ganon as a final boss has a lot of detail. He's big and beefy. And I said before, I really like the Lionels and their tiny little... In real life, they're about 8 size the times as Link's kind of bigger than they are in this game. They still pack a punch, though. After playing Breath of the Wild forever, it's fun to go back and see some of these guys' origins. But the number 1 is, of course, going to Link himself. Claps are weak. Guys are clapping lame this week. Link, the pointy-eared Peter Pan-looking mofo. Shout out to the color swaps on his outfit. I love that. You get the power ring and you turn this like white, really like light blue. I forgot to even mention that, and that carries over forever. I love changing my outfits and Ocarina of Time, like changing your color and stuff. You got the sword, the shield, you got the pointy hat, and you got yourself a mascot for the next 40 years and counting. So let's rate this thing. Does it rule? Is it a rental? Should it be retired? And then Link can just spend his days fishing in Lake Hylia, wondering where he is in that damn Zelda timeline. Let's rank it out of 21. There's 21 mainline Zelda games. So we're going to talk gameplay, visuals, music, sound, and awesomeness. Gameplay, I'm going to go 19 out of 21, and we'll get the negative out of the way. It's a tough game, especially if you don't lock in those upgrades before your first dungeon. But on to the greatness. That's it. It lets you just keep going when you do die, which I do a lot, so I can just start over. It's got not start over. I can keep going. I mean, you start back at your cave square, but I can keep going. It's got some glitchy Nintendo 8-bit charm, but the gameplay brings so much to the table between your action and your puzzle solving. The icing on the cake is a whole nother game to play with the second quest. It's like second breakfast. It's great. Visuals, we're going to go 21 out of 21. It's perfect. I know it's early Nintendo. It's no little Nemo Dream Master type. Is that the one? What is the one? Little Samson? What is that end game? It's really expensive and looks really good. Anyway, it's not an end game system, but it is perfect. It's everything nerds wanted in that evolution of D&D fantasy. Tons of areas to explore. Forests, mountains, lakes, deserts, even the haunted graveyard. All areas coming with a set of unique enemies. You got the item menu. That becomes a staple of the series. Well, I guess until later games, you get your rotating menu thing. But it's always nice watching that item inventory fill up with those little weapon and magic item sprites, seeing an empty spot, knowing you've still got stuff left to collect. Music and sound, 17 out of 21. I know that's a lower than I want to give it. I like all the music. I love the main theme. I love the dungeons theme. It still gives me the creep. I'm just docking those points because it all gets a bit repetitive, although I never really get sick of it. I'm not turning on, I don't feel the need to turn on something else. I just kind of get into it, but I'm not a big music listener and stuff in the background anyway. But the sound effects, I should knock this up points for the sound effects. The secret reveal, the full heart sword swing noise, even the tink of an arrow bouncing off of your shield. Everything adds to that environment. You don't even have to hear Link's grunts as you roll your way through Ocarina Time. Awesomeness, 21 out of 21. It's the freaking Legend of Zelda, guys. The cart's made of gold. Came with a map. It's awesome, and everyone knew it. You almost lost it with Zelda 2. You almost did, but you went back to the OG formula with the best Zelda game ever, Link to the Past. You all know Link is right next to Mario on that Nintendo Mount Rushmore. So let's put this game to bed. Link's always sleeping anyway. Let's add it up. 20 out of 21, but you're getting extra credit. You're getting extra credit this week, Zelda. This is an A+, genre-defying while also breaking them kind of game. It's got the action, it's got the puzzle-solving adventure, and it's got the heart. 2 full freaking rows of them. Zelda and Link games and stories have literally made this little gamer child into what he is today. Just considerably taller gamer child. So check this game out. Treat it with respect. Put it up on the mantle right there next to pictures of your cherished loved ones. Right up there. Because when it comes to Legend of Zelda on the NES, that game rules. Another classic in the books. It's time to hang up that sword and shield and move on to our next adventure. Lord knows this episode can't do that game justice, but this old man in a cave, he's trying his best. Got to keep this hobby alive before they officially stop making physical media anymore. Say it ain't so, PlayStation. What are you doing? Thanks again for listening to this week's show. I appreciate the support. One more time, hit me up at thatgamerules@gmail.com. Let me know how much Legend of Zelda games mean to you and why young Link is the best character to play in Smash Brothers. Stock up on those rubies, stock up on those rupees, blow up any wall you come across, whether or not it's got a crack in it. Stay safe, stay classy. Thanks again. I will see you guys on the next one.
Does it take till you get to the center